to welcome everybody to the MIPS seminar, and it's a great pleasure today to introduce Dr. Carla Seamer. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the unceded lands of which our faculty stands, and that's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and pay my respect to their elders past and present. I also pay my respect to custodians of lands from other communities who may be joining us today. Now, in medication safety research, we often talk about vulnerable population groups, and aged care and disability, of course, are two of those vulnerable population groups. And I first met Carla when Carla was working with the Brightwater Care Group in Western Australia. And Carla is a pharmacist who's done also a Master's in Clinical Epidemiology and a PhD in Pharmacoepidemiology. And back when I met Carla at Brightwater, there were very few pharmacists around Australia who were working as part of aged care. And that's changed quite rapidly, of course, with the aged care on-site pharmacist model in Australia. But Carla has been a pioneer in bridging the gap between university-based research and sort of industry engagement. And in this case, it's into sort of aged care industry and the disability care industry. So Carla has worked most recently at Macquarie University, but has recently returned to work in the disability sector. And Carla is the executive leader at Connectability, which is a disability care provider based in Newcastle in New South Wales. And I think this is really relevant. Disability care is clearly a priority. People will be aware that after the federal election, the Department of Health and Aged Care has incorporated the word disability into their name. The Pharmaceutical Society of Australia have just produced a report on medicine safety in disability, and I think this will be a really important area for medication safety moving forward, and I certainly hope that disability gets the focus and attention in relation to medication safety that it deserves. So it's a great pleasure to introduce Carla today. Thank you for giving the MIPS seminar, and we look forward to the presentation.
Can you hear me okay? Yep, thank you very much, Simon, for that introduction. Firstly, I'd just also like to acknowledge and pay my respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and to elders past, present and future generations as well. I work at Connectability. This is our logo. It's an Aboriginal artwork developed by TAFE students, where the green represents the growth, brown represents the earth, and the purple represents connections. And it's about twirls coming together to form an inclusive and environment for all. So thank you very much for having me today. I'm going to sort of take you on a little bit of a journey, and hopefully it makes sense at the end of that journey, because I think it's really important to get an understanding of the NDIS and the current state of the NDIS and why and how we provide the support that we currently do, and also then the opportunities that are out there, particularly with medication, research and evidence-based care. So my journey, I don't actually know what to call myself anymore. If I'm a pharmacist, a researcher, operations manager, I'm not really quite sure. But my journey has been founded, I guess, in always wanting to support the community and also medication. I really have always had a really big interest in that as well. So I just thought it'd be good to sort of give you a bit of a background on my journey in sort of more of a linear line, because I feel like it twists and turns. It has over the years, but background, I am a community pharmacist. I stopped working in community pharmacy only about 5 years ago. I really valued working in community pharmacy and continued to do that whilst I was working across many other industries. And then I worked at Brightwater Care Group. As Simon was saying, it's a large aged care and disability service provider in Perth, Western Australia. And I had a fantastic job of supporting the development of a research centre, which included conducting and implementing evidence-based care across the organisation. I got to work with so many universities, both nationally and internationally, and I got to actually see the benefits and outcomes of all the amazing research work that people do and the impact that it can have on people's lives. From there, I went and worked at Edith Cowan University School of Nursing and Midwifery, and my primary role was seconded with Ramsay Health, and looking at evidence-based care in Ramsay. In Western Australia, I'm not sure if it's different to Victoria, sorry, but Ramsay owned public and private hospitals. So it was like a whole sector, and I really wanted to get that experience of working within a hospital and evidence-based care. Some of the key things I worked on was looking at deaths within the hospital and the quality of those deaths over the 3-year period. I looked at medical emergency team responses, hip replacements, ICU survivors, and among many other things. And then from there I went and worked at Macquarie University, the Australian Institute of Health Innovation. So this focus was really on bringing together my aged care background and also medication administration, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And where I am now, connectability. So I'm the executive leader of community living, overseeing the 24-hour care of people with a disability. I've got a question mark because I don't know where I might end up after this, but I have been really fortunate that I've really valued every part of my role, and the opportunity to be able to really implement evidence-based care at the moment has been fantastic. So a little bit about connectability. So founded in 1992 by a group of community members and families to meet the needs of the people with disability. It's actually from a research group at University of Newcastle was our original foundations. So we're just sort of an example of how research can turn into practice, connectability itself. So we have since grown from 18 customers to 1,700 customers, and our mission is to add value to you through everything we do. We are solely an NDIS provider, and I've just got this corporate structure up here so I don't forget, so you can sort of see some of the NDIS supports we provide, but we do provide most NDIS supports from support coordination, community support, physiotherapy, speech therapy, dietetics, behavioural support practitioners, support plan management. We've got 500 staff in total, and under the community living sector, we've got encompasses 250 of those staff. I have 8 operation leads below me, and then 250 disability support workers that help support 80 of our customers. So just a little bit about community living homes. So we have 79 customers across 21 homes, and we're located through the Hunter region from Belmont to Chisholm. And we started doing community living homes or supported independent living in 2018 when we won a tender with the government as part of a consortium with Ability Options and Finding Yellow. I'm not sure if many people know the disability history within Australia or particularly within the Hunter Valley, but a lot of our customers, so we've got 79 customers, most of them have been in institutions prior to coming to connectability. So they were taken away at birth and they don't know who their family is, and their governing authority person is the public trustee and guardian. And at the moment with the NDIS, they are really living an amazing life and really living their best life that they can. So the NDIS has had a profound impact on many people out there with a disability, albeit on all the negative media as well. So just to give you some foundations on what is supported independent living, so it's a funding component with the NDIS, and it's a type of support aimed at assisting individuals with disability in achieving greater independence. And it is primarily intended for those with high support needs who require assistance both during the day and at night. And as a service provider, it is essential that we demonstrate that all our funding is allocated directly towards the participants' care and support. So a very small percentage of people with supported independent living funding, so 6%, are also funded have specialised disability accommodation funding. And this is the funding that accompanies the expense of the home or the building, and the structure must adhere to particular standards. So 15 out of our 21 homes are what they call SDA homes. This is Angie. Angie is one of our customers at our Lockyer Street. Angie is 40 and she loves to travel, she loves high five, and she loves getting her nails painted. As part of a supported independent living provider, it is our role to coordinate the extensive support network required to support Angie on a day-to-day basis. And I've just listed some of the supports for Angie, and I did actually run out of room, but I just wanted to give you an understanding of that it requires an extensive network to support every one of our customers. And it's our roles to coordinate that extensive network with the customers and their support person network. Just some key points in the NDIS framework, and I think it's really important when I dive into the legislation and the national practice standards, and some of the reasons why we do what we do, is the overarching philosophy of the scheme is choice and control. So I think it's really important to keep that in mind when we're going through the slides. But I also just wanted to give you some stats, because I know everyone here also likes stats as well. So there's 692 participants in the NDIS, of which 39,000 are classified as SIL or SDA. There's 263,000 providers, of which 41,000 are classified as SIL or SDA. So as you could probably work out, there's one SIL provider per 0.93 participants in SIL or SDA, which doesn't really make very much sense. So the market is quite flooded in relation to SIL providers. However, only 16,000 are registered providers. But the government is making a change to that, particularly for supported independent living. That registration is important, and I believe it's important for the safety and quality of services provided participants, particularly within SIL. But I also do know that they need to balance then choice and control with registration. So it's a difficult balance to get. And this is just to highlight, because I feel like you probably know we hear a lot about aged care, but not with disability, but as a registered provider, it's really hard to make break even. The funding is to break even, not to make a profit or not to make a loss. We are audited on the hours that we provide, and we have to demonstrate to that government, otherwise we have to pay the money back, or vice versa. But there are a lot of organisations at the moment that are operating at a loss and are currently folding as well. So we have many regulatory bodies that also oversee us as a service provider. One of them is the official community visitor, which is appointed by the Minister of Family, Communities and Disability Services under the Ageing and Disability Commission Act. And their role is to promote and resolve any issues by raising them to the service for our customers. We also have our NDIS practice standards, and there's 4 core modules. There's the rights and responsibility, providing governance and operational management, provisions of supports and provision of support environments. And within the provision of support environments includes the practice standard in relation to management of medication. As an organisation, we also need to adhere to the higher intensity personal activities, such as complex bowel management and severe dysphagia management. And as a registered provider, we are audited every 3 years and have to do a monthly 18-month interim audit to aligning with these practice standards. And that's something that, as a registered provider, you have to pay for yourself as well. So now hopefully that's given a little bit of context of the disability sector, and now I'm going to sort of go down more the medication angle and medication and disability. But these are the current standards of medication management of medication outcomes that we need to demonstrate to the auditor to be registered, which is each participant requiring medication is confident their provider administers, stores and monitors the effects of medication and works to prevent error or incident. And to demonstrate this, we have to record it clearly. We have to make sure that it's administered safely, the workers know what the side effects are for the medications and know how to report an incident, and that all medications are stored safely and securely, and that all staff are appropriately trained workers. However, when we go into the legislation and the framework, and every state and territory have their different legislations in relation to medication management, Tasmania is the only state that have a disability-specific framework for medication management. And in disability, there's no requirement to have qualifications or recognised training, and we also there's no requirement for registered nurses. This is probably, if you, one of the best articles that really, as the title says, demonstrates the legislative limbo that we are in with disability, and I believe Victoria is the same as New South Wales, that there's no legislative governance in relation to how we should be administering medication within residential disability services. And it's definitely worth the read, and it sort of like highlights that it's not, we really need to do more, and we need to have sort of more governance in relation to this. It was also highlighted through PSA as well, who released this document, and I thought the key thing about this document, and now being a service provider and providing the services, is that because our staff aren't trained, they can't make clinical judgments, so we are heavily relying on emergency services and poison information centres whenever there's a medication incident. We treat medication incidences very seriously, but I can guarantee this increase in call volume is also from our organisation as well, because if there is a medication incident, we don't, if an ambulance doesn't need to be called, our next point of call is the Poison Information Centre. And I've just also put that graph in below just to demonstrate some of the complex medication that we are dealing with a lot of our customers as well. So there was an aged care commission, a Royal Commission. There's also been recently a disability Royal Commission. There was 222 recommendations, of which 130 were accepted in principle. Out of all those recommendations, there was 2 in relation to medication management. The first one was the data collection and public reporting on psychotropic medications. And as Simon was saying at the very start, the Minister of Health, Ageing and Disability now, and I truly believe that within the next 12 months, we're probably going to be collecting and reporting on psychotropic medications very similar to the aged care sphere. And then also the other recommendation was about minimum service standards for medication management and the use of restrictive practices. So in disability and as a registered provider, we have to adhere to restrictive practices. There's 5 types of restrictive practices: chemical restraint, environmental, mechanical, physical and seclusion. These restrictive practices go through an extensive approval process through the New South Wales Department of Justice, Communities and Justice. And a chemical restraint is defined as the use of medication or chemical substances for the primary purpose of influencing a person's behaviour. It does not include the use of medications prescribed by a medical practitioner for the treatment of or to enable treatment of a diagnosed mental disorder or physical illness or a physical condition. Now, the prescribing practitioner is the clinical decision maker. However, when it comes to the restrictive practice panels, it is the service provider and the behavioural support practitioner's role to demonstrate to the panel member why this person should be on this medication. We also need to always include a fade-out strategy for that medication and any unauthorised authorised restricted practice use is reportable incident to the NDIS Quality Commission. I just wanted to note, we get a little bit unstuck here because the guidelines are federal for the NDIS Quality and Safeguard Commission, but the governing body is state, and they want different things quite constantly, so it's very hard to sort of justify both the federal and the state in this process. But what can we do in disability to improve medication management? So when I went back and started to go back into disability, having worked in aged care and disability previously and being a pharmacist in the background, we've got very complex medication regimes. We've got staff that aren't trained in medication, delivering this medication. There's no transparency, there's no accountability, and I was like, we need to improve on what we are currently doing. So I worked at the Australian Institute of Health Innovation, and I guess a lot of the stuff that we were doing there was electronic medication administration and the benefit that it can have. A couple of the projects that I was working on was the National Aged Care Medication Roundtable, where we had 3 large providers and we were doing quarterly reports benchmarking, who were the top facilities and what were they doing, what were the bottom facilities and what were they doing, what nudge therapy interventions we can do to influence prescribing changes and medication usage, and like many other projects across the institute that we were looking at. And it did really all fall down, like the hospital systems have done it. They introduced electronic medication administration, the aged care then introduced electronic medication administration, so it was kind of natural that I thought, well, disability really needs to introduce electronic medication administration. We know there's really strong evidence demonstrating the benefit of electronic medication administration. The aged care sector had been significantly funded to support and establish this, and I'm really hoping in the near future that the same thing happens with disability, that we're funded to support the infrastructure needed and implementation. Obviously within aged care they do also have the introduction of the electronic national residential medication charts as well. So I'm not here to promote Best Med, but Best Med is the product that we went with within our organisation, and it's one of the electronic medication administration softwares out there, and the reason we chose this one was because the interlink between the home, the doctor and the pharmacy. And I just wanted to note it is designed for residential aged care. So to implement Best Med, I firstly had to source pharmacies that use Best Med within the Hunter Valley region, which there were only two pharmacies in the area. We implemented in September 2023 across 6 homes, and we also included the Best Doctor feature. So the Best Doctor feature enables the doctor to prescribe from anywhere. So they could be out on the golf course and they can update the chart for you. It means though the community pharmacy cannot update the medication chart. You can't update the medication chart, only a doctor can. So all doctors that support that customer need to use Best Med. I thought, yes, we can do this, we can achieve it, but it didn't work out as well as what I planned. But we expanded to the remaining locations in March 2024. We conducted face-to-face training with all our staff, and we also had to transition all from Webster packs to sachets as well across all the homes. So there was lots of lessons learned along the way. The legislative requirement for disability care differs from those from aged care. So that was our first requirement. The next one was each Best Med function needs to be customised to suit the individuals residing within the home. A lot of our homes are single staffed, making it impossible to implement double checking and or dual signature for any of the requirements. And while we don't have registered nurses, we still require the same capabilities similar to those of a registered nurse. We did collaborate quite extensively with BestMed to adapt the functions and systems to meet the specific needs of each SIL home, and including some things such as the timeframes of medication. So a lot of our customers, one customer might wake up at 6 a.m. and the next customer might wake up at 1 p.m. So the morning medication regime window needs to be really broad, where within the aged care facilities, they're generally 1 or 2 hours, where we might be having 5 or 6 hours for a medication round window. The other thing is, because our staff aren't trained to identify medications, we do medication count. So they need to count how many medications are in sachet, rather than saying, like, there's metoprolol, metformin, 2 metformins, 2 paracetamols. So you can do a medication check to make sure each medication is correct, or you can do a medication count, and we decided to do the medication count for those reasons. And the Best Doctor wasn't working for us. We still have it functioning within one home. I just don't think the current environment has enabled us to best utilise the Best Doctor function. I think within residential aged care it works amazingly because the doctors visit the homes, the residential homes, where for us we take our customers to all the medical appointments. So I guess the key thing is, did we make a difference? What happened to medication incidences during this time? And medication incident count went up. So, and this is what I was probably expecting, is because now we have complete transparency of all medication administration across all our 21 homes, and therefore, if it's not reported, we're pinged through an automatic email that comes to us with any missed medication, at our own dosages, and things like that. So our medication incidents did go up. And if we look at the rate of the medication incidents, you know, it ranged between 1 to 1.5 medication incident per customer per quarter. However, if we look at medication incidents that could have resulted in harm, so incorrect medication is our main medication incident that could result in harm. We went from a count of 8, and it's kind of gone up and down, but I'm hopefully seeing a tail end here of where we are slowly reducing the medication incidents that could result in harm. And if we looked at that as a rate, you know, we're going from 10 per 100 customers per quarter of medication incidents that could result in potential harm, to now 4. So I'm really hoping that we continue this trajectory of the benefit of the electronic medication administration software. So Best Track is an extension of BestMed, it's an electronic drug register. Again, it's designed for residential aged care, and we're trying to implement it in disability. So we've just been implementing this. We trialled it in January, and we're implementing it this month actually across the rest of our homes. Again, it has taken a little bit longer than anticipated because we did need constant tailoring of the system, because we don't have the registered nurses, digital signage, and we just had different requirements of the medication that we wanted to count as well for each shift. So as all like researchers, I like to do a little bit of an evaluation. So I have done also a staff evaluation on BestMed, on what their thoughts of it. And the majority, all the staff believe that the system was user-friendly, which is really good and really supporting their daily task. Our staff are very, very busy, so you know, anything that can create efficiencies within their day and also reduce any risk is really important. Majority thought it increased their efficiency. Some people were a little bit neutral on that. And when it came to observe positive outcome, I think this is very similar to the incidents. You know, most of the staff are sort of at the moment saying they haven't observed positive changes in the outcome, but I think at the moment they're looking at the medication incidence so increasing as being a negative. And I'm just trying to really educate them that the medication incident increase is actually a positive, because we now have complete transparency and accountability of what we're doing every day. And overall, most of the staff are satisfied with BestMed as well. I think some of the things that we did find really beneficial and was the visibility of medication administration. So right now, if there's an emergency, I am able to log on to BestMed, like here in Melbourne, and I am able to give advice of exactly what's been taken, what they're taking, what they've missed and things like that. And we're able to then have always very clear, accurate information of what our customers are taking. BestMed also records PRN medication use and effectiveness, and it reminds the staff to prompt if they have had, say, even if it's just paracetamol in an hour, has it been effective, yes or no? If no, why? If yes, why not? It's efficient, easy to use, the accuracy and the accountability is fantastic, the instant changes to the online system, and because most of our homes don't have Best Doctor, we rely on the community pharmacist. They make all those changes to the system that's automatically updated. And we can also order all our medication online through the system. It gets pinged at the community pharmacy. And yeah, so it works really well for us. Just out of curiosity, has anyone worked with BestMed here? And with residential aged care or any disability at all? Yeah, okay, excellent. So there are still aspects to improve for us, because it's run at the community pharmacy. They need to print our medication charts, and they also need to print our monthly signing sheets. So whilst we do everything electronically, our customers go out every day and they go to community support providers. Those community support providers don't have access to BestMed, therefore we still have to print the signing sheets to give to them to send out to the community and come back again. We sign out all the medication through social leave for the day, so just say if their lunchtime medication's going for their community support, we sign out that medication. And if they haven't taken that medication, we can sign it back in again when they come back. The staff would like an easier process for this medication sign-off. At the moment, we use our own CRM system to do all our medication incidents. Within BestMed, they do have their own ability to do medication incidents within their system, but we are still using our own system to do that. So disability aged care research. So really a very similar approach can be taken to disability and aged care. And I think the key emphasis needs to be on consumer-driven research. And I know, like with all the aged care research that you guys also currently do, it's a very heavy focus on consumer-driven research. It is possible to translate evidence-based care between the two sectors, as demonstrated through the electronic medication administration system. And increased research in disability field is essential. I do like to flag that funding will pose a challenge. I would love to partner with an MRFF or anything like that, but I can't provide any monetary support for that. And that is because if I do, and the government sees that, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. So it's really tricky for us. So I really hope that with the governing guidelines, particularly for the MRFF, they understand the funding constraints for disability so that we can participate more. I think if you're an organisation that provides multiple services, not just NDIS services, there's ways to go around it, but for a strictly NDIS-based service, we really have to be demonstrating that all our funds goes to the direct care. So I'm hoping there needs to, hopefully in the future the MRFS can understand that as well. So just an example, and I know you guys developed the clinical practice guidelines, and so I sort of thought I'd have a look at what our medication usage is within our customer cohort. And again, every disability organisation will have a very different cohort, and so I wouldn't take this as, you know, representative of the disability sector. But you know, we've got 1 in 2 customers on an antidepressant, 2 in 3 are on an anti-epileptic, and 3 in 5 customers are on an antipsychotic. So it's quite a lot of sort of inappropriate, potentially, medication usage across the organisation, or it could be appropriate, but then we really don't have the evidence to know what's out there. We do do a lot of deprescribing across our customers. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Our customers are also been on these complex medication regimes for 30, 40 years, so it's also really hard to know what their underlying diagnoses are as well. However, there's lots of room here, lots of opportunities to look at what are some good practice guidelines in residential disability services as well. Another example is your early onset dementia. So a lot of our customers have intellectual disability. With that comes early onset dementia. So we have 1 in 5 customers have early onset dementia and connectability. And it's a key focus for us because they have funding limitations. So we can, when their dementia progresses and we need a funding change, it's very hard to get that through the NDIS. We also want to be able to provide environments that are suitable to care for those with the dementia and intellectual disability as well. So that's all I've got, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Questions for Carla? Start with a question. So one of the initiatives that we have, of course, at the university is an industry-based PhD program. So we're encouraging, at least within the Centre for Medicine Use and Safety, and I think across other themes and centres in MIPS as well, for our PhD students to do an industry placement. And Carla, you're somebody who's worked, I guess, both as an academic researcher and also in the aged and disability care sector. What would you like to see out of those sort of industry partnerships with universities? And you mentioned the opportunity to partner on things like MRFF grants. What would you like to see from universities?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, just early collaboration is really key. And then, because I think that really helps to demonstrate if the project's feasible and also how we can really accelerate what you want to achieve and want to do. So even when I worked at Brightwater, one of the key things that I would sort of really say, because you'd have researchers call you up like 2 days before a grant's due, we need you, you're going to miss out on this amazing opportunity if you don't say yes, and then put a lot of pressure saying, making us feel bad for saying no. But like, even though we agree it's a great opportunity, but we really need to be there as early as possible to really help guide and make the research program translatable. And also we can use our consumer networks to support in help guiding what your research project might be as well. And I know I've got amazing customers that love to be part of many different groups. So, getting them involved from the start, as well as from an organisation perspective, is really helpful.
Justin.
Great presentation. I love how you read evidence into practice. Sorry to hear you from that.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to work. With abundance of pharmacists doing home medicine reviews, have you got a structure to sort of identify whether it's appropriate use or inappropriate use of the system to sort of make that a recurring pattern for these patients?
No system at all. And we really struggle to get doctors to sign off for the home medication reviews at the moment. So we've and it's part of a restricted practice requirement that they do get yearly home medication reviews. But then when we can't get the prescribing doctors to sign off for a home medication review, it makes it really challenging. I do know that BestMed is developing a system within their software on how to identify customers that may need a home medication review, or I keep going and say RMMR, but I don't know, like whatever, like medication review within the aged care system as well. So that will be really beneficial, and I'd love to know, be able to do more research once that's in for residential aged care, if it's applicable to disability or not.
Since it's on, can I jump in another question? Yeah, I come from geriatrics, so we've got the assisted inappropriate medicines in older adults and stop sign criteria for older adults. You've got a pharmacology background. What do you see as the main potentially inappropriate medicines in the disability setting? How would that differ from what I see in that geriatrics?
I would think it would be very similar, but probably a lot, like, I guess when I look at our customers' medications, they're on multiple antipsychotics. And, you know, I do believe that some of our customers definitely need to be on this medication, and we'll never know why it works for them. A lot of our customers are sort of like 1 in a million, they've got a genetic thing that no one else in Australia might have. So for some reason that medication combination works for them. But the antipsychotic usage is still really quite high, and it's definitely something that we need to address. But I do think it's going to be really challenging for like a guideline perspective, because every individual needs to be treated it's very hard to class all the different types of disabilities across the but yeah, antipsychotics definitely, and I do think that's going to be a huge change within the next year as well.
So one of the things that we're doing at the university here is trying to prepare pharmacists, of course, for new models of practice, and also to work across a wider range of healthcare settings. And the new aged care on-site pharmacist model is sort of generating quite a lot of attention among our staff as we develop new courses and new case studies. For pharmacists like yourself who might want to work in the disability sector, what do you think are some of the key sort of education sort of needs that pharmacists may have that they may not have at the moment?
I think as a community pharmacist, you probably do have people within your pharmacy that you support with quite complex regimes who may have a disability as well. So I think community pharmacists are probably already really skilled in the area, but I think for us with disability I would love to be able to sort of get the pharmacists within our homes providing a bit more education to our staff, knowing what to look out for an adverse drug reaction, because we do have a lot of PRNs as well. At the moment, our behavioural support practitioners give us all the information about when to use medication, and I really think it needs to be in collaboration with pharmacists, because they don't have a pharmacy background, their psychology background. So it's really interesting on how that happens, but I do think it's an opportunity to really get pharmacists involved with behavioural practitioner plans, and also the education to staff on medication usage and effectiveness.
Well, if there's no other comments or questions, please join me in thanking Carla for the presentation. For those of you who have registered for the masterclass, I think that's on at 1 o'clock in the Dean's meeting room. So please come along to the Dean's meeting room.